Hello friends, welcome. Let's look at the moon's position in the 8th house for all the 12 ascendants in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. This will give you a very good idea about how the Krishnamurti's framework, especially the predictive side, is different from the traditional Parashari and other methods. You will also notice the significance of the grouping of the houses. This is a very unique feature in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the grouping of the houses to identify a specific event of life. We are going to see this in action in this video. But before we start looking at the moon's position for all the ascendants, let me set the pointer towards a few things that you might want to make a note of. Now, when you are interpreting a horoscope in the Krishnamurti Paddhati, so one of the questions that comes to me once in a while is that about whether to use the Kaspa chart or the Lagna or the ascendant chart. So one is that the grouping thing that we are going to discuss after we are finished with all these points. So it is always considered in the cusp chart. So when you're looking at a horoscope, when you're looking at the moon's position in the 8th house, we basically means in the 8th cusp, then it has to be interpreted in the cusp chart and not in the lagna chart. Second is that in the grouping, the column the column 1, which is the planet's lordship and the position, and column 2, which is the star lord. So in the grouping, all these numbers are going to appear, but many of you might already be knowing that the star lord column, this is the most strongest in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. For example, if a planet is in 12th house, but it is signifying the 11th house in the column 2, which basically means it is placed in the star of a planet that is related to the 11th house, then that particular planet, which was apparently seemed to be giving the result of the 12th house, will not give the result of the 12th house as strongly as it will give the result of the 11th house, which basically means more profit rather than the loss. So that's another point. Then the untenanted planet. So there already, what the untenanted planet is, and because the untenanted planet's strength is as good as a column 2, almost like a star lord kind of strength. So when you're looking at a grouping of the houses, then this is one of the things that you should bear in the mind. And apart from that, when Sri KSK talks about the grouping, and then he identifies a certain event in a person's life that are bound to happen with the manifestation of that grouping, then the karak attributes of that planet are often used. For example, moon indicates the mother, moon indicates the mind, moon indicates the changefulness. We are going to see this as we start looking at the moon's position in all those the horoscopes. But the karak is one thing that is important when you're looking at the grouping of the is the grouping of the houses. So now let's take each of these houses, is the horoscope, each of the ascendant, 12 ascendants we are going to take, and we are going to put moon in the 8th house, and then slowly look at what kind of grouping it creates within the KP framework and what kind of a result it's going to offer. This is based on an article by Sri Krishnamurti himself. So let's get into that. Now, if you look at the layout on the left side, you have the star lord and sorry, the sign star lord and the star and the star lord table. This I have put for a offhand reference. You will need this, and then we'll start by taking the first horoscope as the for the Cancer. So what we'll do is that we are going to identify two things in each of these horoscopes that we take one after another. We are going to identify the 8th house, right? So that's what our moon is going to be always in the 8th house. The ascendant will keep changing, but the moon's position will be in the 8th house. And obviously, when moon's position is in the 8th house, then the ascendant, the number will change when the ascendant also changes. So first we'll start with the Cancer ascendant, and we're just going to focus on the Cancer ascendant, and then we're going to focus on the moon in the 8th house. Now let me highlight the result. So the first one is, like I mentioned, moon as lord of Lagna in the 8th house. This is what we are going to discuss. Moon as lord of Lagna in the 8th house. Moon as lord of Lagna in the 8th house. Now, when the moon is in the 8th house, which is an Aquarius sign, then within Aquarius, depending on moon's degree, it could be in any of the three stars. Let's see what are the stars within Aquarius, and then we realize that the three stars within Aquarius are the Dhanishta, ruled by Mars, Pratyabhesha, ruled by Rahu, and Purva Bhadrapada, ruled by Jupiter. So it depends on the degree of the moon. If moon by degree is situated in the star of Mars in the Aquarius sign, then it will create a different kind of a grouping. Similarly for Rahu and similarly for Jupiter. So now you got the whole idea that how we are going to move forward uh, uh, when we start discussing one after another horoscope. So let's assume that moon is in the Dhanishta star. So when moon goes in the Dhanishta star, then it causes Raju. Let's look at what the grouping it creates. The moon, this is a grouping moon starts creating when it is in the Aquarius and in the star of Mars. So the 8th, why we have taken 8? Because moon is in the 8th house. So it is going to signify the 8th house. Why we have taken 1 over here? Because moon is the lord of the ascendant. And then since moon is in the star of Mars, so for Mars, if you look at for Mars, then it is going to be for the Cancer ascendant, the 10th house and the 5th house. Right? So the grouping that we get is the 8, 1, 5 and 0. Right? So now Sri KSK says that this is going to cause Raj Yoga. You see, the Mars is already a Yogkarak for the Cancer ascendant. But here it has become Yogkarak by being deposited in the star of Mars. So what KSK says is that when this kind of a signification is there, see, this 1 in 10 signification is very sorry, positive signification in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. So the 1 and 10 combination, it it brings a lot of recognition for a person in his or her career. And since Mars denotes authority, Mars indicates executive power, so then it could be said that it's going to create a Raju. Now the question is when this is going to happen. So Sri KSK has mentioned that in every moon subperiod, he or she will have a rise in his or her career. Now, if you read this carefully, then you will see that he has not mentioned about the Mahadasha. The KSK just mentioned about that every time a person underwent the moon period or sub period, irrespective of the dasha, then and if moon is a significator of 1 and 10, then it's going to be beneficial for the career of that person. Now, if we look at the the stars within the Aquarius, then we find that there is this Shatabisha and then Purvabhadrapada. So if moon is in the star of Rahu, then there's, see, in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the nodes Rahu and Ketu, they indicate the lord of the sign in uh, which they are occupying, and the conjunction and the aspect. So these three things are there. There is some confusion in Krishnamurti Paddhati about what exactly the nodes represent, but the nodes representing the sign which they are occupying is for sure. So I would just recommend that you stick to that only. So when you are making the interpretation of, or you're trying to figure it out that what house is the Rahu is going to indicate, then you have to look at what sign the Rahu is occupying, and depending on that, then you have to create the grouping. But one thing you will consistently note within the KP readers is that whenever a planet is deposited in the star of Rahu, then Sri KSK always mentions about some worry and some anxiety. Not that Rahu cannot give a wealth or create Rajyo, but it seems to me that since Rahu is a natural malefic, so there is always this word of caution from the professor that there has to be some kind of a worry and anxiety, even if the results are very positive. And now, if Moon is in the star of Jupiter, right? If Moon is in 8th house, it could be in the star of Jupiter, depending on its degree. So then it's going to represent the 8 and 1. 8 and 1 we already discussed. This is going to be there because Moon is in the 8th house and it is the Lord of the Ascendant. So 8 1 is there. I'm not going to repeat the same thing again and again, but for the very first time, just to make sure that you understand how these numbers are appearing. And then the 6 and the 9. 6, why 6 and 9? Because Moon is in the star of Jupiter, and Jupiter is going to is the lord of the 6 and 9. So this combination 8, 1, 6, and 9. So what this combination indicates, it says it gives success after much struggle. Now, this is one of the result that you will often find in Krishnamurti's framework. That whenever 6 and 9, this combination I have seen appears, then Sri KSK often mentions that there is going to be success, but after much struggle. See, traditionally, the ninth house is the house of luck and fortune. But within Krishnamurti Paddhati, it is not that positive house. So that's why Professor mentioned that it gives success. Why it gives success? Because it is indicating the sixth house very strongly by being in the star of Jupiter. It's a very strong significator of the sixth house. So that's why it says that uh, one can get some success, but after much struggle. It causes anxiety, ill health. Ill health is fine. You see, there is 1, 6, and 9. 1, sorry, 6 and 8. So, whenever the 8th is there, apart from the 1, then there is always some kind of a concern about the health. 1 and 6 is also causes some kind of a disease, but those are very minor. So, whenever the ascendant, it gets grouped with the 8th house, though this is not very strong in this case, but still there is going to be some concern on the health side. Then of course the sixth house is the usual stuff. It increases the inimical activities, which we all know that the sixth house is for the enemies and all that. Now, apart from that, if you read these lines, then Sri KSK says that the partner may lose money, otherwise, spouse or partner may cause worry due to bad luck or hospitalization. So, in that case, what we will have to do is that we have to look at what kind of signification, what kind of a house grouping we will have from the partners or the spouse perspective. So, basically, from the seventh house, we have to look from the seventh house. So the number that we will get is, I think we'll get 2, and then we will get 7, and then we will get 12, and then 3. How we got this number 2? Because the 8th house, from the 7th house, the 8th house is the second house, right? And the 1 from the 7th house is become the from the 7th house, it becomes the 7th, and then the first house becomes the 7th, and the 6th house, this particular house, right? This from the 7th becomes the 12th house, and the 9th house becomes the 3rd house. So when you look at that, then you see that this combination is not good for the 7 and 12. This is not good. It does indicate some kind of a health issue, and 12th is usually for hospitalization. So that's why he mentions hospitalization. Third house also indicates a small journey, maybe it's journey towards the hospital. So in this, the KSK has taken the grouping not only from that person's point of view, but also from the partner or the spouse point of view. The idea is that this house grouping you can expand in so many different ways, and can also talk about other relatives within your family. So that is the whole idea. Now let's move on to the moon as lord of the second house. So now we are going to put our focus on this particular thing, this particular chart. Okay, now the ascendant becomes Gemini, and first let's put our moon. So moon is here, in the 8th house, and then the lordship, moon becomes the lord of the second house. So moon is the lord of the second house and it is placed in 8th. So we're going to put our focus now on this particular reading. Moon as lord of 2 in 8. So now, first let's look at what kind of uh, stars this particular sign, the 8th, the Capricorn will have. So here our focus is going to be now on Capricorn. So it has Sun, Moon and Mars, these three stars. So again, depending on the degree of the moon, moon could be in the star of Sun, moon could be in the star of Moon, and moon could be in the star of Mars. So depending on that, the house grouping will change. Let's look at the house group. All these house groups. Now the first is that when the moon is in the star of Sun. So why 8, moon is in the 8. And the second is because moon is the lord of the second. And then the third house because moon is in the star of Sun. So it represents the third house. Now, there's some very interesting observations by the professor. And it says that it gives loss through brothers or while making short journey. You see, the 8th house is involved. And the 8th house will bring in some, compared to the 8th house, all these other houses are very weak. The second and the third house. So it says, and then Sun is also involved. So Sri KSK has mentioned about the the loss through while making a short journey, which is because of the third house, or by eating books, or by government officials. So because the Sun is there. So I mentioned about the Karak attributes of the planet. So that's why KSK has mentioned about the government thing. And then if you read these lines, he says one may be picked especially in a public government office, bus stand, railway station. For this you need a very I would say a high degree of imagination, the one that Sri KSK has. So this is not something like a yoga. I think this is just a stretch of imagination that Sri KSK has used. That one may be picked, especially in a public government office, bus stand, and obviously he has mentioned public and all these things because of the Sun, and the all these travel related places like bus stand, railway station, and all that because of the third house. And then if moon is in the star of Moon, where in the Capricorn, if moon is in the star of Moon, then it's going to indicate the 8th and 2. So if you look, it says that this gives wealth and not health. So why professor is saying this is that in this 8 and 2, 2 is strong because it is the moon is in the star of moon, so it becomes the strong significator of the second house compared to the 8th house. So normally we think that 8th house is there, so it should give some kind of a loss. But here, since the second house is stronger because moon is the first hand significator of the second house, so some inflow of money is indicated. But again, this whole combination 8 and 2, this is not a good combination because the second house is also a Marak and I have seen in many places where whenever this Marak combination they become active with the 8th house or the 12th house, then Professor Krishnamurti has always indicated that there could be some health issue. Of course, depending on the DBA, the ascendant, some planet has to strongly indicate the ascendant also. Then only this whole health related or disease related combination will manifest. Then let's look at now the moon in the Mars. If moon is in the Mars chart, then it gives this particular combination 8, 2, 6, and 11. Now you see this 6 and 11, wherever the 6 and 11 is there, and even second house is also there. So this is a very positive combination in Krishnamurti Paddhati. Several videos I have pointed this out that 2, 6, and 11, 2, 6, 11, 6, 11, these are said to be a very positive kind of a combination. Whenever 11th house is there in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the 11th house has a certain status that cannot be ignored. So it tends to bring in a good positive result from the material point of view. And so that's what the professor has mentioned, that if somebody has a litigation or there is some kind of even a competition, these results sometimes you have to interpret according to the age. So if suppose you're looking at a horoscope of someone who is studying in like a university or uh, and is trying for some competitive exam and things like that. So at that time, it's not about the litigation. You can say that this person have uh, will be able to come out successful in whatever competition there are there. Uh, The like the for the education, there's some some competitions are there. Since the eighth house is also involved, that's why he has mentioned about litigation and all that. But 6 and 11, this combination, when you see this at that particular age, when they are in the university or college, and if fourth or ninth is also involved there, fourth or ninth, means higher education, then your interpretation has to be different. Similarly, if suppose the 10th house is involved and you see this particular combination 6 and 11, and then you see, okay, this person is already in some kind of a job or career and looking for some promotion or a raise, then your interpretation has to be different. Now this the 11th house alone um, is also a very positive house for if somebody is suffering from some disease or some ailments. So if somebody has some, if you look at a horoscope and somebody has some kind of a disease, and then you see that there is some Antardasha or even a period where 11th house is going to become active, then the 11th house on its shoulder alone can provide a good relief from uh, some of the disease that a person might be having. And now you see that moon is in the star of Mars. And Mars also indicates some surgical intervention. So in some cases, there could be a surgical intervention, but it's going to result in a good positive relief for the person. So now let's move on to the now the moon as the lord of the third house. First, let's put our moon over here. Moon is in the eighth house, and moon is the lord of the third house. So, and the now being in the eighth house where Sagittarius is there. So now we have to look at what kind of stars are there within the Sagittarius, and then we find that it has these three different stars: Ketu, Venus, and so now let's focus on the Moon as Lord of Three in the Moon as Lord of Three. Like I mentioned that whenever a planet is in the star of the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, and then KSK often puts a word of warning that it may cause some kind of anxiety and worry. They can give good positive result, but I think because of their nature, the nature of the malefic planets, and when we say malefic, then Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, and in some cases Mars also. But Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, they are deemed to be a malefic because of their nature. So, Moon in the Sagittarius sign in the star of Ketu will, and the actual interpretation depends on what sign Ketu might be occupying in a person's horoscope. And now, if you look at move on to the Moon in the star of Venus. So, if you look at Moon in the star of Venus, then the this particular combination, the 1 and 6, because the Venus is the ascendant lord, and it is also the lord of the sixth sign and the sixth house. And Moon, if it is in the star of Venus, then it is going to strongly indicate first the first house and the sixth house. Then it is going to indicate the third house where it is. Then it's going to indicate the eighth house where it is placed, and finally it is going to indicate the third house, the ownership. But this particular combination is not bad for earning some money. And here, if you look at this, then he has also mentioned about the health concerns. So we know that whenever this 168, this kind of a combination is there, then the health concern is also there. So then in the life, many things parallelly happens. One might at the same time be having some concerns on the health side, but at the same time, there could be some activities that could be bringing in some money. And then he has mentioned about the uh, becoming a partner and give finance to run a show with satisfactory bank position. So eighth house is also parting away from the money, giving money. So, and then Venus is a tarak for this show business. So putting all these things together, this is how this has been interpreted. And then let's look at the Moon in the star of Sun. So when Moon is in the star of the Sun, then this grouping appears. This is also very important, and this lot of time you see within KP's reader that whenever there is a 8 and 4 kind of a combination, then and here third is also involved because third is the 12th, right? Third is the 12th from the fourth house. So these houses, all these houses are in the picture. 8 is there, and then the third is there, and the fourth is there. So if you look at this combination, it can have so many different kind of results. So some of those are mentioned here. But I have seen that whenever 8 and 4 is there, then Sri KSK always mention about some kind of a distress sale in the landed property. And here since third is also involved and it is 12th from the fourth house. That's why he indicate that there is going to be sale of landed property and reduction in the permanent holding. Is basically there is a distress a sale. A person is not going to get good money for his or her property because the sale is done on some distress for some distress reason. Apart from that, this eight is involved with the fourth and these houses. So the shadow of the eighth house is there. So that's why he mentioned that moon causes trouble through vehicles and mother because of the fourth house is there. And moon is also a significator for mother. And then you see these lines are very important where he says a few will change their residence to avoid the trouble given by the house owners. If moon was in Uttarashada star, that's in sun star. Now this is again it it, it is a stretch of imagination and of course a lot of experience that Sri KSK had. That normally we would say okay the since the moon is here indicating the bad houses and it is also indicating the house grouping is also indicating the 3 and 4. So we will normally say okay change of resident might be there. But to say this that a few will change their residence to avoid the trouble given by the house owner, this you will need some practice and some horoscopes to validate. And so that way what happens is that you are able to provide some detailing for the when you are doing a horoscope reading, and that's a nice thing to have some more detailing rather than just saying that there is going to be a change of residence. I'm not saying that even identifying that there is going to be a change of resident is a small kind of a prediction. It is a nice prediction, but still, if you want to go to some kind of a detail and if you want to have your imagination stretch like Sri KSK, then you have to carefully go through the kind of detailing that Sri KSK has often pointed out in many of his articles and books. So now let's move on to the next one. And so now we have this particular in focus. Let's first identify the eighth house and let's identify the lordship of moon. So here moon is going to become the lord of the fourth in the eighth. And now since the eighth house has Scorpio, so we will have these particular stars in the focus. So Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. Let's look at what happens when moon is in Jupiter star or Saturn star and Mercury star. Let's look at what kind of a combination of house grouping they create. Now moon as lord of 4 in 8. Now the house grouping is now if you look at the first one 8, 4, 9 and 2. So what it says success in higher education. This you will always find whenever 4, 9 is there, then there is a success in higher education. And apart from that, the 9, 12 usually indicates a life in a far off place. And again, she is mentioned after experiencing a lot of trouble because of the eighth house. And then, of course, the separation from family is more like a logical conclusion. And then he says hospitalization of father and sale of property. So, sale of property, like I mentioned to you, that whenever 8 and 4 is there, you will see that Sri KSK mentions that sale of property and usually a distress sale. And for the hospitalization of father, you have to, if you look from the father's uh, perspective, which basically means that you have to rotate this chart on the ninth house axis. In Krishnamurti Paddhati, ninth house is the house of father, not any other house. Ninth house is the house indicating the father. So if you look at the signification from the ninth house, then you will see that it does indicate that some kind of a hospitalization of father. Now, moon in the star of Saturn. So when moon is in the star of Saturn, then is going to involve these houses. So you have 8 and 4 and 10 and 11. Now you can see that this is going to be a very positive kind of a grouping, because the at the star level, the 10th and the 11th house are indicated. Moon is in the star of Saturn. So the primary signification, the strongest is the 10 and 11. So that is what this whole uh, prediction is, or the analysis is, where the Sri KSK has mentioned that this is a very nice and strong combination. Now, some of the things that come from the Karak attributes and also the house. For if you take this example, it says one may serve in in insurance or chemical engineering industry. The chemical engineering, this comes from the combination of Moon and Saturn, but the insurance comes from the eighth house. So since the eighth house is joining hands with the 10 and 11 house, 10th and the 11th, so that's why this the insurance and the eighth house indicates apart from the insurance, it indicates many other things like estate duty or the inheritance and all these things, which I think is already mentioned, like legacy or inheritance and all that thing is there. But why I mentioned, why I wanted to draw your attention toward this is, see, defining the nature of profession in Krishnamurti Paddhati is not easy, and for that matter, in any methodology, be it traditional Parashari or Gemini, it's not easy. But at least within Krishnamurti Paddhati, you can uh, point out a certain span. Is, for example, this the insurance and the chemical. These are two very different kind of a field, but still it's very logical if you look at the uh, KSK's yeah, interpretation for the profession or the nature of career. And then this particular combination creates many other different kind of a results. So one of the thing is that the friends are going to be uh, helpful, because the 11th house is there and it becomes the primary signification. Then the moon in the Jyeshtha. So we are looking at Scorpio, and moon could be in Jyeshtha, right? It's ruled by Mercury. So when we talk about Mercury, then these houses, right? This and this house gets focus apart from the 8 and 4. So the now when you look at the 8 and 6 combination, which it always indicates some disease. 8 and 6 is there, then it indicates disease. And 6th house is there, 8th house is there, it also indicates inimical activities. And then the 6 and 8 combination is not a good combination in the Shmurti Paddhati. Unless and until it is salvaged by some other positive houses like 10 or 11. But but independently, 8 and 6 is not a good combination, and they create a lot of issues for a person, uh, and that is what it has. All these has been mentioned over here. So So this particular combination is not a good combination. This result has been mentioned over here. Yeah, friends, I'm sorry, but it seems like I have to cut the video short at this point. I need to leave for a Diwali social event, and I just saw some reminders and realized that I'm already late. So I'm sorry about it, and I will try to finish the remaining portion. We did about four ascendants, so there's still eight more left. So I'll try to do that as soon as possible in a few days. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions after going through whatever discussion we had until now, so if you have a question, please share them in the comments area. So when I am recording my next video, so I may pick up a few comments if I find them relevant uh, when I'm doing the next part. So sorry once again. Thanks for watching and happy Diwali.